This is melanoma. 9,000 people die from it each year in the U.S. This is the journey of a young woman with skin cancer. Her name is Erin Youngerberg. In April of 2009, at age 32, Erin noticed a mole on her back that was pink and slightly raised, kind of like a pencil eraser.
It was itching, so I'd gone into a doctor to check it out.
And what did the doctor say?
She said it was nothing to worry about, and that just to keep an eye on it, but she didn't think it was anything serious.
But a year and a half later, it was serious. She was in surgery to have it removed. It was stage 4 skin cancer. Erin had no family history, and she wasn't someone who laid out in the sun often.
What's your reaction?
Stunned. Yeah, I just remember her telling me to breathe, because I just kept looking at it saying, what does this mean?
For Erin, it meant she'd have a 7-inch scar on her back after 40 stitches that looked like a shark bite.
I wake up and I have this huge bandage on my back, and when you see the number of stitches, it's kind of scary at first of, one small mole left that big of a scar.
And because the cancer had spread to the lymph nodes, it also meant she was back in the operating room a month later, having all of the lymph nodes removed in her right arm, 16 in total.
Is that painful?
That's probably one of my worst surgeries that I've had, just because when you wake up, you can't lift your arm. Takes 6 to 8 weeks before you get the flexibility back.
When lymph nodes are removed, there can be problems with swelling because the lymph nodes help return lymph fluid from the arm to the rest of the body, to the heart. The risk of increased infection in the skin in the arm that's affected is the biggest long-term concern.
Erin would quickly realize that skin cancer meant a lot more than just having a mole removed. 3 months later, it was more bad news. Doctors found 12 tumors on her lungs and removed 2 chunks of her left lung.
It's amazing what your body can do to recover after something like that, and how you can still function after having a couple wedges of your lung taken out.
Once the melanoma does develop on the skin, there are a number of ways to predict whether it will spread to other organs. That has to do with the size of the melanoma, how thick it is, whether there's ulceration, which means the top of the melanoma ulcerates, and whether there's what they call a high mitotic rate, which means the melanoma is fast growing.
But soon after, a glimmer of hope. The other 10 spots on her lungs had somehow disappeared on their own. It's called a spontaneous remission.
It's something that they taught us about when going through med school, but it's one of those things that I never had the privilege of seeing until I met her. I think it's a marvel that her own body was able to attack the melanoma and make those cells go away.
You don't believe it, almost, because you've just had so much bad news. How do we make sure it doesn't come back?
But unfortunately, a year later, it did come back. And what happened next was everyone's worst fear. They found a tumor in her small intestine and in a cluster of lymph nodes surrounding it.
The tumor in my intestine, when it first showed up on the scan, was probably about the size of a walnut. When they went to take it out for surgery, it was probably about the size of an orange.
They'd also have to remove 8 inches of her small intestine, but they couldn't get everything.
What remains is still one lymph node by the small intestine that has a tumor in it.
Is daily life impaired at all because of this one tumor that remains?
For the first time in a long time, I don't have any abdominal pain. My appetite's back. I'm fairly active.
Doctors continue to treat the cancer with medication. Erin wants you to know, when it comes to your health, you know your body the best, so it's crucial to advocate for yourself.
If you feel that something's not right, don't be satisfied with an answer you get from a doctor. It never hurts to get a second opinion.
Would you say, Erin, that your persistence saved your life?
I could have very easily just listened to my dermatologist and put something on my back and waited for it to go away. But I think it was very important that I pushed her to take it off. I'd rather be overly cautious than regret.
And when it comes to sun exposure, the stats don't lie. Melanoma is the most common and fastest growing cancer among women 25 to 29 years old.
As much as possible, people should be protecting themselves with hats, long sleeves, and sunblock, even if it's just on the daily commute, especially in the summer or where there's direct sun rays.
There's so many people that are still out there getting their tans, and you don't want to run up to everybody and show them your scar and say, you shouldn't be tanning because you could end up like this. What do you do to get it through to them?
With Everyday Health, I'm Taryn Brill.